Hello, and welcome to the epilogue. With Wyrm reduced to ashes, the game has now officially caught up with us, meaning it's finally time to put these endgame weapons to their intended use. I'll also spoil it right away. This video will just be the normal to endgame fights, but at the end I will discuss a theoretical low percent of this challenge, so if you're only interested in that, feel free to skip to the end. As I said, now that we're at the end, it's time for these weapons to face their real opponents, and if you look closely at their functionalities, you will see that all three of these were designed with specific opponents in mind, with one very noticeable outlier. The Eye of Madness will deal with Ares, the Children of Leto, and the Sepulchre. The Illusioner's Reverie will deal with Calamitas single-handedly, and finally, however unintended, the Halibut Cannon with Bloodfire bullets will literally delete Thanatos in just a few seconds. This bug has now finally been patched, so this video will forever stand among so many others as a relic of the past. But what happens when you somehow manage to code a bug that ignores all defense and overclocks the damage like an LA wildfire? Somehow. Well, arena expanded, let's get this party started. No idea how I lasted this long without gravity normalizers. On the surface, Artemis and Apollo seem like they would be victims of the Reverie, but because they share the same HP pool, the multiple hits from the eye ends up dealing more DPS. Same goes for Ares and his weapons, and Seppi is a no-brainer since she's a Wyrm enemy. I just cannot stop being hit at the last possible frame to save my adrenaline or my life. My dog reflexes are still showing here. Even if this was a very funny bug, good riddance. I should also mention, these three weapons are another perfect example of something I would never use normally. In just Expert Infernum they are extremely overtuned compared to everything else at this tier, and that remains the case even for me, who only plays Master Infernum with inflated HP. And as I've said a bunch in this series, I never like to use overpowered items. Did I mention this bug also causes shit ton of lag? Just thought I'd mention it in case you were wondering where the hell I'm aiming, because I don't know either. Hello to any Alien Core watchers. Hope you enjoyed this whiplash of a song choice. That was a good dancing session indeed. Yeah, I did not take my own advice about arenas after all. And fun fact, I always build massive decorated arenas for the endgame against these bosses. One last struggle on Thanatos, just to seal the deal of how broken this bug is even when performed by a noob like myself. Yeah, I suck at this TSP, and not cause I'm trying to be fancy. My addiction to this parry shield also doesn't help my movement at all. In hindsight, I kinda regret that I only did the hunting blade / cutting edge, but the point of this is just to showcase the weapons and finish the mod, not 100% the mod, which is what I normally like to do otherwise. One down, one to go. Should be fairly quick. Just watch me casually jump in without my revive, that's how confident I am. RIP. prepare to witness the worst Supreme Calamities gameplay of your entire life. Really wish the demons would despawn immediately when you die. If there's one thing that grinds everyone's gears, I'm sure, it's projectiles from previous attempts killing your future prospect by stealing revives or health potions before you even start the fight. I also suck at dealing with Seppi, and not cause I'm rusty. I was just never good at dealing with her to begin with. True melee taught me to never sit still for the condemnation barrage. Probably to a fault, since it ruins my setups more often than not for following attacks. But I stick to my theme of not giving two fucks. Brothers Attack 3 is one of the best and most fun in the mod, and people have to stop skipping it. Looking at you, no-hitters. Okay, time for a real whiplash of a song choice.
Well, if you're hearing this, then chances are you've made it.
That's the first time I've ever been hit by the overload beam in my entire Infernum career, by the way. Alright, let's do this one last time. Also, here is a random fact for you. This theme and its character is called Nexa, which rhymes with Hexa, which is Swedish for witch. You're welcome for this language lesson. Ses nästa gång! Yeah, no self-respecting Infernum veteran will ever die on the DSP. Maintain a revive? No promises. From little rusty old me anyway. Missing one last relic to make these banners even, so it's time to revisit the depths one last time. And here you will get a great display of just how few damage windows this phase has compared to every other one, even with a full homing weapon. And there you have it, the full playthrough completed after skipping ahead to Jared before Golem, with an asterisk on before in my case. But as you might have noticed, I never made the Dragon Fruit here in the end, so perhaps that cancels out the 25 HP from the Miracle Fruit when everything else was below Scoria tier. But I still had one last stop to make. Come February, Calamity received its biggest update in a long while. With so many weapon reworks and balancing fixes, I was certain something from my old build would be drastically changed and outdated. And so it was. Tragically, Infernum will never see the new sprite that Jared received. At least I have my thumbnail art to make up for it. With this revelation, there was only one proper thing left for me to do. As I showcased in my build guide, it's still perfectly viable, but alas it is no longer the heavy heavenly hitter I knew it as. And so as promised, here is a theoretical low percent of this challenge. Now it's important to clarify that I haven't tested this path I'm about to describe, and this is just mostly brainstorming on my part. So if you have a better path idea or improvements, then do let me know down in the comments below. But first, very important to note, because of how flexible Calamities with tier skipping is borderline encouraged, and because some items can be obtained in a multitude of ways, there are many paths available for low percent of this specific challenge. For example, you could go get the Duke Fishron summoning item at the onset of the game, with truffle worms from the glowing mushroom shrine. Or the method that spawned this entire idea that Chapsticks did, doing Cultist as your first boss and then get pillar weapons by using the Ancient Manipulator. But if we go by the intended boss order, the way I did it, it would look something like this. Just like most low percent runs, start by killing Wall of Flesh. From there, you will abuse the bulbs in the Vernal Pass to spawn and kill Plantera for important upgrades, mainly to get ore to obtain the hard mode anvil. With Plantera dead, gather what items you can and kill Aureus plus or minus the Ocean Outcasts for good weapons. I emphasize Aureus on this path because of the wings, but there is also something important to note about him. With Brainstorm came a change to the Astral Chunk, where it now requires dubious plating in its crafting recipe, and thus the first level of decryption knowledge, meaning you need wires. But then how do you get wires without the mechanic? Simple. Find boulder traps and mine up active stone blocks. When these are shimmered, they will drop the wires you need, so you just collect enough to make the decryption computer. With the computer, you can now craft the item, summon and kill Aureus, and then obtain the Hadarian wings for the best wing movement on this tier. With these last two kills, gather what items you think you'll need, because you are now ready to fight the Primordial Wyrm. And so, it is done. My complete journey of trying to kill Jared as early as possible. While I think I did pretty good, there were probably earlier options and items I didn't know about that could have possibly allowed me to fight him even earlier. Not to mention I didn't test every class at every stage, and I could have been better at the game maybe to do the Luminal Spiral without ideal movement. But then all this begs one final question, one I've been avoiding up until now. Is it actually possible to do it at pre-boss tier? If you ask me, the answer is a no, with a small asterisk. Because sure, if you could somehow maintain perfect movement for what would likely be a several hours long fight, then yeah, eventually your sub 20 DPS could take him down. But that would require a level of endurance, skill and unbreakable will that I just don't see anyone with even a fraction of sanity and reason left would spend their time trying to master. So I just don't think it's possible, or at least I do not see anyone doing it. And with all of that, I once again want to thank everyone who watched this series. And if anyone decides to tackle this, or any of my other challenges, then I wish you luck, and I hope you have a good time. Because in the end, that is why we play video games. To have a good time, test what is possible, and discover what limits we can surpass, both in our own skill, creativity, and in the game itself. Thank you for watching.